Welcome to the Liberty Without Compromise live stream broadcast with Dan and Donna Wilson. This is the only flim-flam-free broadcast in Kootenai County where we discuss our elected and appointed political officials, leaders, and political influencers. Tonight, the local political frauds really are frauding right in your face constantly, and they're banking on the fact that you don't know, don't care, or maybe a little bit of both. Tonight, we expose more of that, plus a lot more action. Join in on the conversation with your questions and comments. You can type those right into the comment section on whichever platform you're watching, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, or on X. If you're joining us live, be sure to share this live stream to your page or profile. And then also subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's at The Idaho Sheriff. You can rewatch the program there. And for our Liberty Without Compromise podcast, listen and subscribe wherever you get your shows. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here's your host, Dan Wilson.
Have you ever had a day where you just think it can't get any better? Well, today wasn't quite to that level, although every day that I'm with you, it's a great day.
Stop.
Here we are, the end of January, and it was 40 degrees. The sun was out.
Nice.
We
Very
went
nice.
out, got a good cup of coffee, went and visited some friends, went to Stella's Stogies, and then we came back and got ready for this show tonight. I am loving life. I feel great. The workouts have been doing extraordinarily well after,
What, are you just
little
bragging
decline.
now?
Well, I'm just,
Are you just bragging?
saying that I am ready, wholeheartedly ready to put my absolute best into this show. Hello, friends all around Kootenai County, Eastern Washington, Western Montana, across the fruited plains and beyond. So glad you could join us tonight. We are going to talk about everything going on in the country, how it ties in here locally. We're going to discuss a rumor that's brewing at the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, as well as...
I love it when you come in here with those rumors.
Well,
I love
it's
that
from
part.
credible sources,
Yeah.
as well as what everybody is freaking out about on this immigration deportation plan that's been unfolding right before our very eyes. But I want to remind everyone that Liberty Without Compromise resulted from my previous 2024 run for Kootenai County Sheriff. And we have unfinished business. I love meeting and speaking with people all around, whether it's locally or nationally, about liberty, about those great principles and lessons that our founders gave to us when they gave us this republic, if we could keep it. So we also have unfinished business, I personally, with Bob Norris and DC Matari, all their cronies, those that are currently running Kootenai County politics and the so-called conservative Kootenai County Republican Central Committee that, in my opinion, has been infiltrated and overtaken by people that are not really liberty-minded. They say they're conservative, but they are tribal at a minimum. So we have many things to discuss tonight. So I probably better get right on it.
Yep, lots of things to discuss, and then realizing some of the other unfortunate facts that we've got political influencers also in this area that, and we're not uncovering all of that tonight because we've got stories we're still working on. And like Dan said, we want to get it right when we bring these things out and expose them. But political influencers who have come into our area 2020 and then specifically through the 2024 election, and some really disturbing things that we're finding from places they came and the behaviors that they were doing in those states and cities, and then mysteriously arrived on scene in Kootenai County. So those are some things we're working on exposing, and that's going to be important for you to know and understand.
In Kootenai County, we have many different rings that are up to things that I don't believe are good. They're not on the up and up. They're dishonest. And they are separate, and yet they are joined together by a few key people. One of those happens to be Sheriff Robert B. Norris. Now, Bob Norris came here from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department around 2013. Although, if you look at some records, He claimed a homeowner's exemption up here while he was voting in California, living back and forth with his fourth wife at the time. We don't know what the real story is, but we do know that he and DC Matari made it up here around 2013. Bob, of course, served many years at the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, the last several years under the Fusion Center. That is the Homeland Security umbrella organization that combines at the Sheriff's Office, FBI, CIA, three-letter agencies in their JWAT, the, what do they call it? The Joint War on Terror. That's not a good thing, folks. You know that these DHS operatives are all over. Spoke with somebody last week that informed me in the know that there are over 2,000 FBI and or related operatives right up here in this region. So Bob Norris is very, very comfortable, and we're going to talk about this in a little while, with his Homeland Security buddies. I'm curious if Chrissy Noem knows what's been going on up here in Kootenai County. Their co-conspirator, well, maybe I shouldn't say quite co-conspirator, but a former Fed that is tied in with the pastor of a mega church. And if you want to know about this and how that unfolded with that power player pastor, you can go to our Liberty Without Compromise podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, and you can listen to the series Power Player Pastors in Kootenai County. But this former federal agent is involved with not only the sheriff, but the pastors. There's a lot's going on. So I'm kind of curious whether Chrissy Noem, Kash Patel, have any idea about these people and what they're doing right here in Kootenai County. It's mind-boggling to me as we peel this onion back. And of course, we have people on the sidelines that know a little bit about it. Some people turn a blind eye, try to claim that nothing's happening. But I think that the more you listen to us and see the receipts that we bring, the evidence, you yourself can come up to your own conclusion as to whether or not we have a violation of the 10th Amendment going on up here in the county with federal operatives that have embedded themselves right here and are messing with our politics to curb people that are liberty-minded. Now,
that's one of the descriptions for tonight's program, is that there is bad behavior politically going on right in your face. They're extremely brazen about it, and it is obviously very calculated.
Yeah, it is. So we'll talk about that a little more, but I want to move on to the newest intel that I received from a very credible.
Tad wants to know the name of the agent.
Well, Tad, we're going to need you to dig a little deep. We've given you enough breadcrumbs out there. If you've listened to the Liberty Without Compromise, if you've done a little
head to that podcast,
Google foo, you'll be able to figure it out. And of course, you can probably just call a friend and they'll tell you who it is.
And then unrelated, Barry, thank you for joining us on Facebook. He checked in and said Christian Patriot for Dan Wilson. So thank you for joining us on the show tonight. And then let me remind all of you, as we're having our discussion here, you can break in whenever and join that. Drop your questions and comments in the comments section, and we'll put them up on the screen or interject within the dialogue as it makes sense.
I'm being told by a very credible source that current Undersheriff Brett Nelson, who came from Santa Ana PD, was a corporal down there. I believe he's with, I want to say Orange County Sheriff's Department at one time, came up here, came out of retirement because he retired from California. And then Bob Norris ran into him allegedly at the jail while he had come out of retirement, was working at the jail. Bob needed a undersheriff, and apparently, Brett took the offer, applied, and became the undersheriff. First corporal that I've ever heard that made undersheriff. Usually undersheriffs at a minimum, lieutenant, typically captains and on up. But I've been told that Brett Nelson has had enough of Bob Norris and that they are no longer congregating together. They're not hanging out. They're avoiding each other. And the rumor that I've been told is that Brett's gone. He is leaving, and there is a current search for a new undersheriff for Bob Norris. Now, remember, also, we were told last year by deputies inside that a agreement had been made with Bob Norris, who, if he was reelected, which he has been in 2024, that he will serve 2 terms, and then the heir apparent is Captain Jeremy Heil. So interesting. We're going to find out if it's true. We put in a FOIA request to the county to ask about the status of Under Sheriff Nelson. There's been a lot of chaos with the opening of Kootenai North. Many of you in Kootenai County have been following that there was a decision to buy the old Kootenai Electric building way up north in Hayden, Idaho. Hayden, Idaho is not the seat of the county, which is Coeur d'Alene. And they decided to purchase that building and move their operations up there. And I've been told it's been a major, major mess. Fingerprint appointments have been canceled. Folks that have not been able to get records and other sheriff business. But yeah, it's been a little bit of a rough time for him there.
When you talk about the undersheriff who's checking out, and rumor has it, or like you said, from a qualified source, so probably more than just a rumor, but that is so concerning because your undersheriff runs the day-to-day operations of the department.
The sheriff is a political individual.
Yes. So when you have people up in arms about somebody not being, you can't run for this office, you're not qualified for it. Well, the undersheriff, if there's an issue there, that
manager.
really is the problem. Quincy Franklin jumped in to let us know that there was just a plane crash in D.C. So some breaking news: a plane has collided with a helicopter during landing at Reagan National Airport near Washington, D.C. You can still tune into the program live tonight to hear what we've got going on local. Pull up your X channel. That has been the number one place for some of that live breaking news, as opposed to legacy media.
I go to X now more than any other news source.
And you can follow Dan on X at your Dan DW
the Idaho Sheriff.
And it's the Idaho Sheriff.
The Idaho Sheriff.
All right.
Speaking of social media.
Speaking of that social media, we've got today in social media. We had some interesting things coming down. I'm trying to remember the order I wanted to do things in. Oh, we have, okay.
Because you did have a crash right 2 minutes before.
The program crashed and kind of got rid of all my goodies I had queued up in here. Well, let's see. Yeah, I guess I wasn't able to pull those back into it, but I can do this one. We're going to do this one. Have fun. We're going to have fun with this one.
All right, what are we doing?
So when you think it can't get worse, it gets worse. OPM posted their guidance tonight that everyone has to revise their telework policies by Friday to say there is no telework. Oh, and remote workers, we don't give a shit about you. If you can't go to an office within 50 miles of where you live, you'll be geographically relocated and you'll have 30 days to comply, or else you're going to lose your federal job. Yeah, this is how they're, quote unquote, draining the swamp. Trying to make life as uncomfortable as possible, and logistically not answering any questions. Oh, you don't have an office near your remote worker? Doesn't matter. They got to move in 30 days. And let me just tell you, you should read the memo. It reads like a third grader wrote it. Damn it. I mean, it is bad. Bad.
All right. Well, so I don't think that was Permom on TikTok. That kind of tells you something. Her handle's Permom.
Like cat?
Yeah. Meow.
All right, that's the very first strike. Cat lady.
Cat lady.
All right.
And, well, here she is venting her grievances, having being a government employee. Interesting to read the comment section on that post, because it's not what we may have even run into a year ago, where some may have come in full support of this statement that she was making, and instead she was met with a lot of opposition. So I'm curious on your response to government employees that are being told, got to come back into the office, and out on social media, and even still today, there's a lot of whining and complaining, or as you have said, wailing and gnashing of teeth.
Yeah. If you have taken a job with the government and there was a job description, and part of that job description says you must be at this location, then no question. If you can't meet that, then you're not meeting the minimum terms of your employment, and therefore, why should you be employed? Now, for far too long, and due to, look, let's look at this. This originally happened under Donald Trump in 2020 when they decided the world had to lock down for the COVID scam, when they were stealing your liberties. For those of you that were allowing this, not only nationally, but locally, this is what happened. You had government saying we're going to shut down. Nobody can work unless you're considered essential. They shut down the world's largest economy for a 1% death rate for a pandemic. More people are killed by fentanyl overdoses per year in the United States than were dying due to COVID. Now, we're not talking about the doctor-induced deaths, but this is what happens. And I have seen this personally, even in the private sector. But once they started this telecommuting work, people got used to it. And I believe that if you have to physically be in a location per your job agreement, your job description, contract, whatever it was, you need to honor it. Now, I think it could be said that if you hired on and it was not a requirement, then yeah, that sucks. However, once again, the employer gets to dictate the terms for the employees. Remember, the company doesn't exist. In this case, the government doesn't exist to employ people. People work because they work for the government because they need to exist. They need to be able to take care of their own household. So yeah, tough luck. But the wailing and gnashing of teeth, it's about time that career government workers get a taste of what it's like in the good old private sector.
A little more wailing and gnashing teeth. We have a question of the day from Jack Posivic, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Viral videos are going around showing empty Walmarts and Home Depots. Restaurants are reporting kitchen staff aren't showing up for work. And then he's questioning, have you experienced anything like this? How many illegals? I mean, if this is the case, if this is true, how many illegals are really in our country? So then, I mean, that was my question to you when I was reading post after post similar to that, with these empty lots, empty construction sites.
Yeah.
How many of these employers in America, I mean, if that's the case, how many of them then are doing illegal business practices by hiring people who are,
I don't know.
Or is that even happening?
I don't know. It definitely is happening.
Yeah.
But, you know, with the social media reports, who knows how to verify whether or not these places are empty because there are no customers and no, workers working at the various venues.
Well, I will say in the comment section of his post there on X, there were a lot of people going, I call BS because in the area I am, that it's business as usual.
Yeah.
The restaurants I typically go to, those Home Depot, Walmart parking lots, it's this. So there were report after report of people saying this just isn't the case. It's something that's being thrown around kind of like a scare tactic. And so, yeah, just not the case.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of untruths that have also emerged in order to detract from the overall job of what it appears that this current administration is attempting to do, which is scale back government drastically. I heard today that they are offering severance packages for people that they're going to lose their job. They can quit voluntarily now and get severance until September, which is pretty generous, 9 months, versus getting fired at a future date. Which gives them enough opportunity for 9 months to go find a replacement job. I still think, and people will disagree if you work in government. I get that. I have family members that work for federal government. I never have. I've never received one federal dime. I didn't participate in the payday protection plan that rolled out. I've never received any kind of subsidies or grants from anybody, let alone the government. So I'm a little bit cold-hearted on it, but I'm really sick and tired of people that have only worked for the government thinking they have it so bad. The reality of it is you don't. You have it far greater. You have a cush life if you work for the federal government, especially state, pretty close there. And one of the reasons I know this is because in my business, We routinely work inside state, local, and we have worked in federal locations as well. And I mean, some of the laziest people I have ever witnessed in my life work for the state of Washington.
I'm seeing a lot of very similar comments to that same effect, where people are
Well,
drawing that to light,
you
who
know-
either know or even have worked government jobs, and they're raising a hand and saying, look, I was there and I admit it.
You know it's bad when you make a position for a guy in an office whose basic full-time job is to wander 20,000 square feet and continually, perpetually look for things to complain about safety-wise. And we're not talking about, brazen safety violations. We're talking about measuring countertops to make certain they're within a quarter to a half inch of spec for ADA, and making certain that doors have the proper poundage for opening for ADA. I mean, we get it that there's regulation and we try to conform to that and obey the law, but some of this stuff is so out of control. And then the rest of the time just wanders around with a coffee cup making a lot of money. So I don't know. I don't have a lot. In fact, I have really very, very little sympathy for any government employee.
Dan calls that the guy, a guy on any job site wandering around with a coffee cup. Dan's name for that is he's the supervisor. Okay, one more today in social media. So Mama Smurf Guzman over on X says, is it just me, or have people lost their humanity? They cheer when Fed workers lose their jobs or when immigrants get arrested, when immigrant children are too afraid to go to school, cheering when friends and neighbors lose their public assistance. What is wrong with people?
Tell me you are a little Marxist without telling me you're a little Marxist. Yeah.
That's on the heels of some of the comments you made. So you are one of those people, as she's describing.
Yeah. Yeah. Where, even my carpenters and tradesmen that work for me, they are employed because they offer a skill set. And I believe they're going to become very valuable, even more valuable in the next several years.
Yeah.
So,
That's likely. And then very blatantly says, when immigrants get arrested, illegal immigrants.
So everybody's losing their mind on the left, and look, we lost our mind on the right side. I think for cause, when you're destroying the country with your Marxist communist actions, like we've seen the last 4 years without the rule of law, DEI hiring, all of the above. So I guess it's natural.
Linda Cook.
Republicans get in, and then now all of a sudden it's the end of the world. So people are losing their mind because of the rule of law that's taking place.
Yes.
What was Linda saying?
Linda Cook says, my boss in Congress had her staff report in the worst federal agencies, and the abuse of taxpayers we found was shocking. Federal employees are or were untouchable, and that creates a dearth of work ethic. So
Very
she's
well
just
said.
chiming in on that topic.
So Trump came in doing exactly what he said he was going to do, which was starting deportation immediately. I've been following this for the past 2 weeks, and the Gateway Pundit has an interesting article that we're going to go over real quick here.
And I was unable to load that link for some
You were?
reason. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me just read it real quick here. Some of the highlights. The Trump administration has issued a quota of 1,800 arrests per day by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. By the way, Bob Norris, ICE is, those guys that come in and take illegals and deport them out of York County, just in case you don't know that. According to the New York Post, the agency's 25 offices must make at least 75 arrests each day to meet the quota. Since President Trump took office less than 10 days ago, ICE has made approximately 4,500 arrests. Speaking to CNN on Tuesday, White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller explained that the quota is a floor, not a ceiling. So first of all, the numbers you cited are a floor, not a ceiling. Very importantly, they're a floor. The goal is to arrest at least that many, but hopefully many more. He goes on to say, an ICE official who is not authorized to discuss the quota said the agency's list of criminal suspects was sufficiently long so officers would be able to continue prioritizing public safety and national security threats to meet quotas. Last year, ICE told lawmakers there were about 670,000 immigrants on its caseload who had criminal convictions or face criminal charges. Some are serving sentences in jails and prisons. People are losing their minds because they're saying, well, Trump said he was just going to go after the criminals. Well, they're going after the criminals, and simultaneously they're going after the really bad criminals. And what I mean by that is the criminals are those that are illegally, contrary to our laws. Don't care what the reason is that you determined that you needed to be here, but you came here illegally. No different than if somebody was in your house and they came in for whatever reason, you would not like that. We, the American people, are sick and tired of having to deal with this on a national scale. So yes, you are a lawbreaker if you came over here. I've said this forever, right? I call them illegal invaders. Second of all, the really bad criminals that are also being taken off the street, according to this one, it's about 600, almost 700,000 individuals. That's larger. That's about the size, the combined size population of Spokane County to our west and Kootenai County. That's just about, if every person that lives in Spokane County and Kootenai County were joined together, that's how many supposed illegals that we have here in this country. So look, with 20 million and more likely 40 million illegals here in this country, these 4,500 a day really is not a huge number.
So Ron over on Facebook commented, unfortunately, I don't think people understand that to make changes, there will be adjustments that may not be comfortable. And that's too why being in a leadership position is it's a difficult task that most people are not suited for, contrary to what we've been led to believe, that you can work your way up into a leadership position, but having to choose things that you're going to have people coming after you, and it's going to hurt and be painful.
Yeah. And there is going to be a lot more when the news starts picking up on mothers with their crying children that are getting deported.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pain, but remember, this pain was caused by the Biden administration, by that criminal, Alejandro Mayorkas. The amount of criminality that has taken place by the former administration, we don't even understand the total ramifications of it. And because of bad actions, because of them opening up the gates, we remember those sound bites where we had the invaders coming from South America because Joe Biden told them to, and they had an app, what is it? CBD1. Can't remember the acronym now or the name of it, but the app specifically to coach people through the asylum process. So it's unfortunately because of the actions of the previous administration, and frankly, administrations before that, and an inept, inefficient, low-T GOP-led Congress, that we are going to have to face some pretty sad photos and events they're going to take place as a result of correcting the wrong. Now, the newest White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt, we have a video of her discussing at the press meeting yesterday this specific topic of deportation.
Introducing
man, how is that happening? Well, it's because the program dumped. So we'll give it here in a second. We're gonna vamp for a second. This is what happens when
you can't do better than that on vamping.
Immigration of the 3,500 arrests ICE has made so far since President Trump came back into office. Can you just tell us the numbers? How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
You made a point of the worst first. They all have a criminal record?
And welcome to the briefing
If they broke our nation's laws, yes, they are criminal, yes.
Thank you. On
Okay. So we all know that there is the issue, and it is not confined to Texas and California and Chicago and New York. It is everywhere across all 50 states. Well, maybe not as much in Alaska. But right here in Kootenai County, for over a year, I continually warned people that not only do we have illegal invasion right here, but more concerning to me was the military-aged males that are hiding amongst us. And we don't even know fully where they're at, but they're going to cause a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Kootenai County Sheriff Robert Norris, who is friends with all of his former corrupt Department of Homeland Security, agents, they assured us that we have nothing to worry about here, even though we're separated by one little border between Eastern Washington, Spokane, and Kootenai County. Do you know that yesterday it was announced that over 1,800 of these refugees, aka illegal aliens, were going to be coming to Spokane seeking asylum, right? Not our federal asylum, but they're running away because Washington State, the communist state that it's become, and Spokane has decided that they're going to be sanctuary cities. That is right here, folks.
Yes.
Where do you think these people are going to be going? So you would think right after the inauguration that our very own sheriff, Robert Bob Norris, who has a plan for everything, I think. What kind of statement has he made?
In case you didn't sense the sarcasm.
There's no statements that have been made. There's no statement saying that he is going to join.
Absolutely, 100%.
With Tom Hammond and the Border Czar in helping deport all these criminals from out of our area.
Well, one of the things you just brought up a very good point, because you could say, well, as it was happening and we knew we had wide open borders, why was our current sheriff, Robert Bob Norris, not making a plan to secure Kootenai County? But now on top of that, what you just mentioned, you have a whole mass of people coming to seek asylum in a bordering city.
Yeah.
And had a plan been made.
Well, look, Bob Norris
3 years ago
was even opening up for Border Patrol because Spokane won't take them. He was detaining for Border Patrol Washington area illegals right here in Kootenai County Jail, even though at the end of August, we know this from public records through his emails with the Homeland Security Office in Seattle and Jeremy Heil, captain of the jail here in Kootenai County, that those turds did not understand what ICE 287G or that program was. So yeah, I'm surprised that Bob Norris has not come out and tried to ride the shirt tails of President Trump like he did when Trump went down to speak in Vegas at the Ahern Hotel. We know that Don Ahern, billionaire Don Ahern from Las Vegas, who owns the land up in Kootenai County around Hayden Airport, Extreme Manufacturing, Ahern Rentals, is a big friend of Robert Bob Norris, gave him a lot of money. And he was with him last July down there trying to hobnob, or maybe it was June, hobnob with Trump. Didn't get close enough to get a picture with Trump or an endorsement. But then he was in Washington, D.C. last week for the inauguration. We know from Catherine Bedford's Facebook page that they were not successful in getting up close and personal with Trump. So they had to run around to a bunch of other different venues along, I believe, were they with the Edwards?
Yeah,
The former mayor of Dalton Garnes and the owner of Trafficor, who gave the $10,000 to the Deputy Sheriff's Association PAC to promote the non-KCRCC candidates.
And ladies and gentlemen, your sheriff of Kootenai County was hobnobbing in D.C. with those people.
That's who he's hanging out with instead of being here with a plan ready to act. So yeah, hasn't done anything. But let's talk a little more about why he and DC Matari, who also is not only a county commissioner, but holds a special deputization.
I'm gonna let you take one deep breath. That's your teaser, because we're gonna talk more about it. I'm telling you, this is juicy local stuff, and you need to pay attention. But I want to give a minute to our sponsor of tonight's program, and then Dan's gonna continue on. Light up that cigar. Stella's Stogies is your one-stop shop for all things cigars. Located on historic Main Street in Spirit Lake, Stella's Stogies believes that there's nothing quite like enjoying a good cigar with friends. That's why they're there to help you pick the perfect cigar. Stella's has a great selection of cigars, cigar accessories, and information about cigars, making it easy for you to find just what you're looking for. Owners Brad and Lisa are passionate about cigars and are committed to providing you with the best possible cigar shopping experience. They believe that a good cigar is a great way to relax and socialize, and they're excited to share their love of cigars with you. Stella's also does pop-up shops for events, so be sure to ask them about that. Mention that you heard about Stella's Stogies on the Liberty Without Compromise live stream and get 10% off your purchase. Learn more at stellasstogies.com.
Okay, so today you and I went up to Stella's.
We did. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Brad. And I had to get a couple sticks, and I'm going to brag about them. So we have the Big Sky Blackfoot Montana company. Stella's carries these. I'm looking forward to trying this out. A follower on X, Mr. Idaho,
Recommended this one?
recommended. In fact,
All
he sent
right.
and said, I had to try. And I said, well, you know, it just so happens our friends at Stella Stogies carries the Big Sky brand. Then I got a Stallone, and I don't have my glasses on, but this is the Warhorse. This is an outstanding smoke as well, rich, robust. And my current favorite cigar right now in 2025 is the Foundation Olmec cigar. So
It's just
I don't
the
know
good
if
old
anybody can see
faithful.
these or not, but
I can see
yeah.
him. Yeah.
so yeah, go up to Stella's in Spirit Lake, Idaho. Let them know that we sent you. Is there a code?
You just tell them you heard about them on the Liberty Without Compromise live stream broadcast. You get 10% off.
All right. So
Yeah.
the last teaser.
Juice.
I almost forgot about what I was going to say.
Don't forget.
We're talking about immigration and the lack of concern by Bob Norris, who really, fairly, for the entire past year and a half, has denied that there's any kind of an immigration issue right here in Kootenai County. He's never been concerned about it, never talked about it. He only started talking about it after I entered the race in late 2023. But a couple things to keep in mind for my friends right here in the Kootenai County region. And that is when we're talking about what's going on right here in Kootenai County. People are upset because, they keep saying, I've heard this at the state level, well, if we get rid of all of our immigrants,
Right.
in fact, I think the Idaho, I don't know, it wasn't the Dairy Association, but the farmers and their likes testified that, in one committee, 80% of all of our agricultural and farms in Idaho run off of illegal immigrants. And that blew my mind. So right here locally, we hear people rumbling and saying, well, hey, we're going to lose people that will do the work that Americans will not do.
Mm-hmm.
You and I have had this discussion. I adamantly disagree. I think that once you get rid of people that are here illegally, then those that are on welfare that aren't currently working might find some opportunity to get some dignity, to work hard and be a productive part of your local community. So right here in Kootenai County, we have an organization, which we're going to talk about here in just a second, that provides these special visas. If we go to slide number 1, this is a little reminder for folks because it's easy to forget when you start hearing about these visa work programs. The H-2A visa is designed for temporary agricultural workers who come to the United States to fill labor shortages on farms. This visa allows foreign workers to perform essential agricultural work in the U.S. for up to 10 months per year with the possibility of renewal up to 3 years. Okay, so that's an H-2A visa. Then you have the H-2B visa. It is designed for employers who need to hire foreign workers for temporary or seasonal positions that cannot be filled by U.S. workers, and it's capped at $66,000 per year. Notice that I'm not talking about those visas, these H1, I think A, H1B, that what was it, Musk and Vivek.
Oh, Vivek.
Vivek. We're talking about those that have college degrees that come over here and take American jobs, allegedly because there's no Americans that can fulfill these positions. And they're all over the board. We're not talking about those. We're talking specifically about labor type of work. Both the visas that allow people to work from an agricultural standpoint, remember, up to 10 months a year, up to 3 years before those visas expire. And then the one that allows you to do other seasonal work, which would be construction and other things. So how does one get those visas? How does that work? Well, I don't 100% understand, but my guess is that you get people that are probably, and this is just right now speculation because I haven't hammered this one down, but people come here illegally and then they search for ways to be here legally.
There's probably an app.
Yeah, it's probably an app.
Probably an app.
But we have right here in Kootenai County a valuable asset.
Yeah.
Valuable asset called Labor Consultants International. I think we have a website there for that one. We'll pull up. So labor assistance, and they specifically help people obtain the H1 or H2 and B visas. Is that right? Yeah, H2A and B visas.
Yeah, we're looking at that website now. It says the labor assistance you need, one visa at a time. So this is a local operation,
Right here in
is
Kootenai
what you're
County.
saying, right here in Kootenai County.
I think
Okay.
his office for this is just right around the corner from Special Deputy DC Matari's office as well. But let's talk about this owner.
The one that's it's not
yeah,
Blue Hippo. It's not Blue Hippo anymore.
NDC Financial, I believe. So we have this Labor Consultants International. Who owns Labor Consultants International?
I was hoping you were going to tell me.
Well, if you click to that next link, you're going to find that it is somebody that we have talked about before. The managing owner of this is Terry Forrester. Did you find that? There we go.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
So Terry Forrester, don't know him personally, so I can tell you a couple things about him. But here he is. He's an entrepreneur, extensive experience with the forestry industry. Maybe that's why his name's Forrester. I don't know. Terry saw a need to bring in the H-2B and 2A visa consulting processes to the market with over 20 years of experience. So, once again, we're way up here in Kootenai County.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy and his organization helps illegals, or I guess we wouldn't call them illegals. We would call them, we would call them seasonal workers that are non-citizens.
Right.
I'm wondering if these are the same guys that the power player pastor from that big church in Coeur d'Alene called Bob Norris when he was bragging that he saw this bus of individuals in Coeur d'Alene and called Bob up to go and have a discussion with them. And Bob did. Bob determined that they were all legal. I wonder if his buddy, wait a second. Why am I saying that Terry's Bob's buddy? Well,
I was hoping you were going to get to that because you're calling this guy, and the first thing somebody's saying is, "Well, wait, but he is running a legal."
Oh yeah, we've said
business,
it. We've said it over and over.
And
legal,
it is a necessary and needed.
But we're talking about. So my question, one of the things, and I'll jump to this aspect. What happens when those visas expire? Does Terry? This is a question for him. Maybe somebody can enlighten me. Does Terry help these people legally get back out of the country?
Okay.
Or once they're done with them or done with the employers, because I don't really think that they're doing it necessarily. My assumption would be that they're not doing it for the good of the workers that are coming here, but rather for those that want cheap labor. So Terry is an interesting person because not only does he run this, but he's also a friend of Bob Norris. Now, he and his wife have given maximum donations just this last year to Bob Norris in his campaign. In fact, Terry gave $1,100. He gave $1,000 in the primary and then another $100 for the general. And then his wife also gave $1,000. Okay, so what? People give money all the time, but there's yet another tie-in for those of you who know my passion for this illegitimate helicopter, the Kootenai County Regional Air Support Unit. That's not owned by the county. It's owned by, I don't know, maybe 5 donors. That's what we were told originally in 2023, that 5 donors donating $100,000 for this unit plus $200,000 from the tribe. Well, they were going to provide this helicopter for the county. And once you know that one of those 100,000 donors, as disclosed in front of the Board of County Commissioners in February of 2023 by Lieutenant Mark Ellis of the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, who happens to be the CFO of the nonprofit that is contracting, sort of, kind of. Well, they are, because they signed a $10,000 MOU with the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office. Well, when you look at the IRS filings, which the Air Support Unit finally, after all these years, just recently decided to do their IRS paperwork, once you know that one of the 3 partners, Terry Forrester, was listed. So, maybe getting a little bit of a jump here, but, Bob Norris has been hesitant to ever talk about any kind of immigration issues, period, right here in the county. In fact, he chastised people saying, hey, you're just being racist because you see somebody that's obviously from Mexico or South America, and you assume that they're up here illegally. And he never wanted to talk about the potential for illegal folks being up here in the region, including the military-aged males supposedly seeking asylum. And isn't it interesting that the power player pastor asked him to go down and check these buses that he was seeing at Walmart? And Bob did it. And Bob also claims that he went and had another consensual meeting with them somewhere down off of 15th and Sherman, where they were noticing these buses at a hotel. Is it possible that Bob is protecting, because he hasn't come out with any kind of a statement on how he plans on working with the Trump administration for this mass deportation, because it's going to be requiring all law enforcement agencies to pitch in when you're talking about 20 million minimum? Well, why isn't he, before now, who he always loves to get ahead of the game when it makes him look good, why has he been strangely quiet about this whole thing? Mm-hmm. What theories do you in Kootenai County have about this? Are we off? I mean, are we jumping to too many conclusions? Again, I'm not saying that Mr. Forrester has done anything illegal. In fact, I believe that he's done everything legal. But the question is when you have somebody that is solely producing a product that plays hand in hand, arguably, with immigration that's not legal, what's happening to those people once their 3 years are up?
And why are they so? Why are those very same people so invested in the sheriff's race in Kootenai County, the position of the sheriff, the financial ties and support to that? Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're just good questions.
There is another organization right here in Kootenai County that this individual has been running a similar operation for quite a long time. He lives in Post Falls, gives a lot of money to the Kootenai Republican Central Committee PAC. And there's been a lot of rumors circulating about that organization. Can't verify any of those, so I won't say them. But folks, as I've always said, look at what is going on, not what people are saying. And also pay attention for what people are not saying. This guy, this sheriff right now, should be, because he does this, he's an attention whore, would love to do nothing more than to tie himself with a very strong president. Yeah.
But yet there hasn't been a statement made. He was out of town for, it sounds like, probably a week as all of these things are unfolding, rather than here in our county. At bare minimum, I mean, if there's no boots on the ground work that he needs to be doing because he's all prepped and prepared, then make a public statement about how you plan to work or work against the president. I mean, what are his intentions? What is his plan?
Yeah, I said early on back in April of last year that I would absolutely, once Trump was in that interview, said that it was going to require for deportation all local law enforcement. I went on the record then. That's been, over a year ago or under a year ago, and said that I would absolutely cooperate with the Trump administration to do whatever we needed to do. So yeah, it's fascinating to me that Bob has been silent on that. We're going to find out how silent he's been through some record requests. We'll see if they're lying or not.
And it is a problem because what he's proven is he is not proactive.
Well,
He's
remember,
been
though,
reactive when he's called out on something.
and he says that the LPRs that he wants so badly can help find illegals.
Right.
So, I mean, he kind of talks out both sides of his mouth.
One
but
quick comment from Shannon and CJ. They're joining us on YouTube tonight. Thank you, the two of you. They still have great concerns about our northern border that
yes,
nobody seems to
rightly
talk about.
Rightly so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what the administration is going to do, what kind of resources they're going to pull towards there. But we were just up in Bonner County last weekend. I didn't make it all the way up to Boundary, but there should be the sheriffs in those regions coming together with a volunteer posse to help patrol parts of that northern border. It's Idaho's border is not really that wide. They're up at the
It
top.
seems like
compared to
a
others.
vulnerability that we're not talking about.
Yeah. So in the past couple of weeks, there has been this growing concern about the emergency operation plan for Kootenai County.
Yes, let's talk about this because this has been a heated topic locally.
In the beginning, when I was running, I frequently cited my belief that the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office should have a citizens posse, vetted citizens posse made up of every citizen in the county with any kind of expertise in order to secure our county for any kind of man-made and or natural event. Because as I always said and have been saying for well over a year and a half, you cannot depend on the federal government. You can't depend on the state government. Nobody's coming. It's up to us. And we saw this play out in real time last year. We saw with the hurricanes that came into the East Coast, how inept and probably criminal, really, FEMA was, Federal Emergency Management Act. And their ineptness, not only there, but also in Maui, whether that was intentional or not. I mean, there's lots of good arguments on both sides. I don't know. But here's what I can tell you. Nobody can better protect its own community than the community itself. So I find it hilarious after months and months and months of talking about this and the opposition. And when I say the opposition, I'm not talking about the nice Democrats that we met.
The Democrats, yeah.
Right? Because,
Yeah.
I mean, we traditionally think of our opponents being, well, you're Republican. And of course, I was an independent. And you have the Democrats. There are some that I had a Democrat walk up to me in a coffee shop saying, well, I'm concerned about your policy. And once I explained it,
Yeah, that was a good conversation.
it wasn't about grabbing people and arresting them and vigilantism. But the people in the Republican Central Committee, the tribe, the folks that are more about their party affiliation than they are over the policies and principles, never campaigned for Bob Norris on this very topic. They called him a constitutional sheriff, even though he wasn't the one endorsed by the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. I said over and over and over again, bypass FEMA. Now, folks, if you don't understand, FEMA came around in the 70s, and that was in essence the government's response to bailing out the country for any kind of a natural or man-made disaster. And so it's top down. If you want to get federal funding, well, then you have to enter into an agreement with the states, and the states entered into an agreement with the federal government. And then once they enacted their own state laws, like even Idaho has, then it trickles down into the local county level. And my belief has been, we don't want your money. You can take care of your own federal infrastructure if you have it, but let the people deal with ourselves. Let's secure our own county. Let's get it prepared against wildfires. And by the way, I heard that Bob Norris went to a bunch of the local fire chiefs, and he said, hey, I don't want a Palisades to erupt on my watch. And, I just want you to know that I'm behind you. And it's like, well, bro, if it's outside of a fire district, you, the sheriff, are responsible for it, not the fire districts. It's amazing to me that he doesn't even understand those concepts. So yeah, I was a big believer for a long time that, yeah, sure, statutorily, you have to have an office of emergency management, but just because you go along with that and have a plan doesn't mean that we couldn't come up with our own plan
Right.
and bypass it all. So you have this certain pastor in Kootenai County who got a tip when Dan Gookin, the one that, Brent Reagan is suing because he's mad at him, both on the Republican Central Committee. Brent, the trust fund baby, college dropout, dad was the inventor, gave him all the money, as I've been told. Doesn't like Dan Gookin. So I don't know Dan very well. I've met him a few times out publicly in passing. I don't think we've had more than a 2 or 3 minute conversation at the most. But Dan, being a libertarian, I think I can call you libertarian, Dan, I don't know, went and as a city council member of Coeur d'Alene, said when the city of Coeur d'Alene was looking to vote to adopt this local emergency operation plan, he said, and rightly so, you know what, I'm a little nervous about signing this because it says that the governor can give an order for you to vacate your property in an emergency, and the term emergency is very, very loose. And if you don't vacate, you can be arrested.
Right.
Well, Dan had a very good point, but that spurred on then Paul Van Noy, pastor of Candlelight Fellowship in Coeur d'Alene, a big political pastor. And all of a sudden, well, now he's against it too. And I'm thinking, as I looked up both the plans from 2018 and 2024, they're renewed about every 5 years.
Because you see this scuttlebutt and you say, well, okay, what is this? What's really
why
going on here?
All of a sudden, they I couldn't get any of these guys to be concerned about this back during the campaign.
Right.
Nobody was talking about it except for yours truly. So why all of a sudden are you concerned about this big, bad emergency management plan? So I did a little research and I obtained through records requests the original 2018 version, which I almost thought I dropped something. So you have a 2018 plan, and here's a verbiage, and this comes from state statute, Idaho Title 46, Chapter 10, and it says the governor can order arrest and detention is an option for anyone refusing to leave the area. So that was part of the state plan, that you follow the same laws in the local. And back in 2018, it was signed off by county commissioners Bingham, Filios, and Mark Eberline. Okay, big deal. So you look at 2018 to 2025. How many years is that?
Mm-hmm. Are you asking me to do math?
That's 6.
Don't ask me.
No, let's round up. I mean, we're at the beginning of 2025, but let's just say we'll just give it to him 6 years.
All right.
6 years. The 2024 plan was signed off in August of last year. That now has been almost 6 months ago.
Okay.
Where were all these activists, including Art McAmmer, the attorney, who wrote this memo of concern about the state law and how bad it is that, the sheriff can come in, or any law enforcement coming in and arrest somebody who refuses to evacuate. If you look at the second page on our slide
and
there.
what I'm pulling it up. What you've learned by now is that when you have certain political players that start making noise about something, there's a reason that they want to say, look over here, not over here. So I'm bringing this up for you.
So why the disingenuous? Why were you not worried 6 years ago, especially after COVID? I mean, hello, after COVID, that should have been your tip. When the Biden administration is running roughshod for the last 4 years, why were you not concerned then about ties with the federal government and the state government? What were you doing for those 4 years? So, you look at the 2024 August sign off. And once Commissioner Duncan and Special Deputy DC Commissioner Matari also signs off on it. So no biggie, right? And, our great tactician, the guy that helps the sheriff figure things out by his own admission, DC Matari, how come he wasn't concerned about it? Well, it gets even funnier to me because you have a statement made. We'll go to the very last page first. A statement made by Sheriff Bob Norris. Once Paul Van Noy and others started sounding the alarm, you could get arrested for failing to evacuate your property. Bob Norris puts out this press release here a couple weeks ago, January 9th, and he says, no arrest during the disaster. He says, I will interpose myself between a Kootenai County resident and any entity, federal, state, or local, who's threatening to arrest a person for not evacuating their home during a disaster. He goes on to state Idaho statute 31-2202 is very clear. The sheriff vested with enforcing or not enforcing all statutes of Idaho code. Now, I want to stop real quick and just say, for all of you damn hypocrites, the Bob Norris sycophants, you agents for Bob Norris during the campaign, many of you KCRCC folks, how many times did you run your mouth saying, well, Dan Wilson says that he's not going to enforce certain laws. He's going to be determined what's lawful and what isn't. Well, your current sheriff, the one that was also saying the same things about me, is now on paper saying, I'll enforce laws or I won't enforce laws. Which,
Right.
by the way, I agree with you. And I didn't know you even understood the term interpose. Good on you, Bob, for understanding that really important constitutional concept language there, putting yourself between the people you protect and serve and an out of control, unaccountable federal government. So Bob comes out once again, the hero.
Yeah.
But the devil's in the little details, folks. And if we go back to this slide right here, this organizational chart, I want to point out something. I knew this. Apparently, Bob doesn't know this, or he was too busy doing his donuts with your sheriff events or going to the KCRCC watch parties, whatever. Under this organizational chart, which I obtained through records requests at Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, the sheriff is directly in charge of and oversees the Office of Emergency Management. So I ask, if this was a big deal, DC Matari, this was a big deal, Pastor Van Noy, if this was a big deal to the folks in Kootenai County, why did your constitutional sheriff, the one that's cramming the license plate readers down our throats, why didn't you ask him, well, then why did you allow this verbiage to continue inside this plan under your watch? I can tell you why. Because Bob Norris doesn't read. He doesn't know what he's supposed to be doing. He has no clue, as apparently Brett Nelson understands too. I want to remind folks that this lieutenant who had a heart attack in 2003 that he lied about, has reportedly 2 stints, later got hired on back instead of being medically retired, as I'm being told, but got his job from Eric Parra, who was a former captain at LASD, and now the chief of police at Huntington Beach PD, where that helicopter crash occurred. And R.J. Garwood, who crashed his helicopter while on patrol, was living up in Kootenai County and commuting back and forth. National Transportation Safety Board ruled it pilot error. You know, those guys are all intertwined. This is what Bob Norris has to say about himself on his campaign website. He brags he's a 30-year law enforcement career. He worked patrol, custody, narcotics, gangs, investigations, counterterrorism, and emergency preparedness. He goes on. Under his bio at the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, he brags again. He was elected to lead an anti-terror team at the Joint Regional Intelligence Center, that's a fusion center, after 9/11. His assignment was to manage personnel resources from local, state, and federal agencies. His responsibilities also include the planning, logistics, and response to man-made and natural disasters. Bob Norris, you're a fraud. You're a hack. Shame on you, KCRCC sycophants who put him back into power instead of seeing him for the fraud that he is. And he's continuing the fraud. Hey, Art, at what point did you decide that it was okay to sell your soul by not calling out the sheriff for overseeing this great concern of yours? As I've been told, they pulled after their little rally because they had a community hearing up at the Office of Emergency Management. I don't think it was allowed to have any kind of public speaking or comment.
There was a PowerPoint.
There was a PowerPoint, and I think at the conclusion of it, sounds like to me that it's a state issue. Now, to the state's benefit, our legislators after COVID came back in and they modified the wording to the Idaho state law, which gives the government a form of restriction to include restrictions that he cannot prohibit people from their First Amendment practices and a bunch of things about the Second Amendment protections as well. So our state legislators in 2022 did a very good thing when they amended the state law under the 1975 Homeland Security, 1975 Emergency Management Act, and then it was updated in 2004 for the Idaho Patriot Act. Yeah, they fixed it so that they learned that the governor was a tyrant during COVID and was exceeding his legal authority, or really he was taking advantage of it. I guess it wasn't illegal, but he wasn't doing the moral thing, which was to let people live free. He wasn't protecting people's rights, and he wasn't letting our representatives, the legislature, convene in order to address this so-called emergency. So right here in Kootenai County, this is a dog and pony show. Had they been concerned about this last summer, I might have sat down with them at a table and discussed what it looks like when it comes to liberty without compromise compared to that document. Ask yourself the question, why are they just now concerned after their mortal enemy, the KCRCC? Because again, remember folks, these groups are basically the KCRCC and all their ancillary little meetup groups. Same people. They show up and they're not at all concerned the fact that Dan Gookin, who is no longer in their good graces because he dares to be different, well, they jump on his shirt tails from what it appears to me, unless somebody can prove otherwise. And they decide to usurp that and make a big deal out of it without doing their research. Mm-hmm. Remember, Sheriff Bob Norris, ultimately the one responsible for the Office of Emergency Management. He oversees those policies. He should be reviewing them and marking them up. DC Matari, the great strategist, our elected official, the special deputy, he gets caught with his pants down because, hey, he signed off on it. His John Hancock's right there for God and country to see, verbatim from what the 2018 version was. Anyway.
Yeah, we've overrun our hour here. That was Office of Emergency Management rant. That was a good one because people are on top of that the last couple of weeks here, and I think you drew some things to light that not everybody was seeing correctly.
I'll conclude by saying this. Yeah. Everyone that has spent any time listening to me knows how much I value liberty. Life, liberty, property, and we've made it our goal to talk about all things liberty without compromise. We're not going to trade our dangerous liberty for a certain security. However, a leader comes in and says, fine, maybe from a government mandate, we got to do this, but a real leader would have said, we're going to either modify this point and go to fight with our state legislature over this, or we're going to cast them aside and we're going to come up with our own plan, our own program, because I believe in our own community people far more than I do any kind of government-run bureaucracy. But that's what it looks like when you lead people from the front rather than being reactionary, putting the, finger in the air to see what's going on. And I remember a famous quote that Bob Norris said at a town hall, September of 2023. I can make bold moves because you are behind me. Well, folks, you're seeing exactly what it looks like when you have a follower claiming to be a leader that's reactionary and likes to put his finger in the wind. So,
and I know you have a Madison quote that has been left behind the last couple of weeks. Why don't you share that with us?
I love the founders. I love their wisdom. James Madison, the architect of the United States Constitution and a contributor to the Federal Papers, says, liberty may be endangered by the abuse of liberty, but also by the abuse of power. Remember that, folks. You must be the vigilant one when it comes to all things liberty without compromise.
We want to thank you for joining us for the Liberty Without Compromise live stream broadcast. And thank you to our sponsors tonight, Stella's Stogies over in Spirit Lake on Main Street. Stop on by. And they have a Galentine's event coming up this weekend on Saturday, I think. But check out their website, stellasstogies.com, for more information.
If you like cigars, go up and try one of these Stallones.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think you'll be disappointed. Tell them that I sent you.
Yep, and great place to get gifts, and they've got other neat Idaho things there too. So not just cigars. If you're listening back on our podcast or a video replay, remember you can always catch us live on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. on Facebook, YouTube, or X. Learn more and purchase apparel at libertywithoutcompromise.com. And for our podcast, be sure to listen and subscribe wherever you get your shows.
Wherever. Now remember, stay strong and of good courage. Break a couple plates every now and then. Stand up for liberty. Stand up for what you believe in. We didn't descend from any fearful men, but men who were brave, understood the times, and dedicated their lives and their fortunes and their sacred honor. You'll have to excuse me. I'm going to go clip this beautiful cap on this Olmec cigar. I'm going to light it up.
Time to light up.
I'm going to enjoy time with my beautiful bride.
We're getting lots of thank yous on the screen, so I'm popping them up.
God bless
there.
y'all.